So we've recorded the video using the Google Earth platform here. So this is a basically view from space to orient the location in context. So we'll pull in. So we're basically north across the Juan de Fuca, straight from the state of Washington. So this is the south end of Vancouver Island. And the blue lines are roughly the property lines. They're not really intended to show the area. Well, they're not intended at all to show the area of operation. They're just draped over the landscape like a wireframe in order to demonstrate the topography as we rotate to a more 3D view. So that's Glint's Lake in the center. The bright green line heading south is Glint's Lake Road, which is a public road that was maintained by the Ministry of Transportation. North of that, the blue line is the old logging road. So the Glint's Lake Road runs north to Glint's Lake from the intersection of Highway 14. The YMCA have installed a gate just north of the Souk municipal boundary, which is actually within the municipality of Metchosin, or district of Metchosin. North of that runs out of the municipality of Metchosin and into regional district area, and there's a section of crown land. So the YMCA properties are shaded slightly pinkish. The section 59, which is the owned by the corporate group, is shaded slightly green, and the rest of it is basically crown land around it within those blue areas, with Souk Mountain Provincial Park immediately adjacent to the west. So this is a view looking north from just to show the essentially the skyline from that altitude, and we'll try and pull in a little bit here just to start showing the topography as we lower the view altitude and zoom in on it. You'll see the blue lines will start looking crooked. So instead of looking at them from space, we're now looking across the landscape, and they're starting to show the elevations. So once we get our control of our flight controls here, we'll start flying around a little bit. There we go. So we're going to start pulling. So the YMCA camp is organized to the southwest of the lake. You can see the red roof on what's a large bunkhouse, I believe, in there. And the green line, which is the public road, ends up beside the lake on a parking lot. That was built in the 1930s under a number of programs, initially depression relief, and a little few years later as war relief was built out as a provincial forestry recreation site. And these roads were basically run in and built under various timber sales contracts as the province started developing the forestry industry. With the Forest Act of 1911, they started auctioning blocks of timber. So the forest rangers would go out and measure up the cut block, sketch the area within which they would cut timber, and then within this timber sale contract, they would be authorized to build a road, which was otherwise not authorized. You couldn't just go out there and start driving road in anywhere you like. You may be on somebody else's tenure. They check to see if you were on private property, for example. So they would measure up and do a timber cruise at the same time. They were quite particular. These are crown logs, and they're very particular. They counted every single log, and if they found them, this was basically clear cut, so if they found a good log lying in the slash, they would penalize the contract holder, or if they used them to build roads, which they frequently did, things like that. It had to be done under and authorized under road permit to use a crown log to build any part of the road. And if they didn't do it, the forest rangers would make an inventory and actually penalize the contract holder and charge the logs back against their contract. So that the main part of the road follows the bottom of a somewhat of a valley. It's at the bottom, as do most of the roads. They're in a natural location where it would be logical and easiest to put them in. So they tended to follow contours. In a lot of cases, they'll follow even a creek bed in that era, not so much anymore. So this is a fly-in along the main part of the road, which again is a paved public highway. It is gated by the YMCA, but it is a public road in the Ministry of Transportation road register, right up to the edge of the gate. They spent a substantial amount of money in there. They spent in the neighborhood of $30,000 working on that road and building the forest recreation site at a time when people were getting paid 30 cents an hour. It was a lot of money. So there was a substantial amount of work done, and it was well used by the locals. Hunting and that type of thing. Once the road was in, it made it accessible to be able to go into the lands north of it. So the logging road snakes its way back. There's a green section to the north there at the top of the image, which was put in later. The blue one was put in progressively with the different timber sales contracts, and that one green line was put in at a later date, and for the simple reason that where the blue road deviates to the east, it actually crosses Iam Creek, and this one, the green line, was put in to avoid that creek crossing. There was a bridge in there, and they had to keep rebuilding the bridge. It get washed out and things like that. So that when they did the cut block to the west of it, where that green line is, they ran that road through, and it roughly follows the contour line. So it's a fairly flat road. And that whole blue line was located by a surveyor, and he also made some progress in locating the green line as well, although he didn't make it all the way through. It had been grown over by then. So these roads back then weren't reclaimed as they are now, as they brought in the various environmental protections, as that became obvious that they had to. The road inventory is in the neighborhood of about 750,000 kilometers of resource road, is what they call it, mining and forestry roads across the province, compared to maybe 50 to 60,000 kilometers of actual highway. So it gives you a kind of a context of how much of this road is on the landscape, and what it does. It begins eating into the forest crop. Basically, you subtract that road from the land base, and it's a lot of trees that you could grow there. So they're requiring them, among a number of environmental protections, to reclaim the road now. So this road was never reclaimed. The road prism is still there, and that's the reason there's a lot of trails back there. They tend to follow the old logging roads, without which the trails themselves wouldn't be there, and that's easily seen by looking around. Anywhere there's no road, there's no trail. It's just simply the easy place to put it. First of all, the trees are gone, and the only thing that comes back on those things, if they're not reclaimed, is the smaller trees like alder and salal, the understory type of bush things. So that road from the bottom all the way to the top, now you're starting to see the elevations there. The one on the right in the green patch is the summit of Ragged Mountain. To the left, that bump is Thunderbird Mountain. And the road snakes its way back across the terrain, again, largely following the contours and maintaining a slope by which they could drive a logging truck on the road. The steepest part of that road along that survey line was found to be 24 degrees, a 24% grade, which is quite steep actually. It would be steep for a residential road, but is well manageable within the capabilities of the very, very low traffic that you get for logging, and also the types of vehicles that were using it. So it is a buildable road base for the most part, if not entirely. We haven't been able to get in to do some proper engineering surveys in that, but in any event, we did get a survey line run on it, and it's been walked from bottom to top. And that so this kind of green shaded one there is the section 59. That's PID number 008008876, and that's section 59 Goldstream District. So now you're seeing the slope and scale of the topography. The summit is quite high. It's at 575 meters, and it's the second highest point in the entire area, the other being, the highest being, I believe, Mount Empress, which is west and north of this to some extent. So we'll try and pull in a little bit on the summit if I can manage the controls here. This would be easier to fly with a joystick. Once I think I lose sight of the horizon here and then get lost as if I was in an airplane. I actually am a pilot, so that's exactly what happens when you lose the horizon. You become disoriented very quickly, so I think that's what happens here. So here we go. We're getting our nose up on our airplane a little bit much here, so I'll have to recover this so I know where I am. Bear with me a moment. There we go. I think I just crashed there, but Google Earth is good, but it isn't perfect. It's beginning to look like a very jittery video game here. So, okay, now I don't really know where I am at this point, so I'm going to have to figure that one out. What I'll try to do is get situated here and then do rotation around the property so that we can see the viewscapes all the way around. They are fantastic. Across the Georgia Strait, you can see Mount Baker in the distance, and once we get fixed here in terms of positioning for our point of view, we can maybe demonstrate. So there's Mount Baker to the top left in the distance, and actually I've pulled way back out over Souk Mountain Provincial Park, and we're coming into the property from the west here. So there's the summit again, and from here we'll try and do something of a controlled rotation. So that as we rotate around, we're coming from the Georgia Strait to the Juan de Fuca Strait, and now we're looking straight south across to the Olympic Mountain Range in the Washington State side. Maybe experiencing a little bit of turbulence here or something, but we'll get it. So I'll try and pull in a little bit. Now you can see the quite steep slope. There are some very good slopes. The whole terrain back there is perfect for it's cut all over with hiking trails. They're all over the place up there. They tend to follow the old logging roads, but there are trails that have been run in as well, as people they get grubbed in as people tend to walk up there. There's quite a bit of hiking traffic. It snows actually quite a bit back there at that elevation and stays, so it's not high enough or steep enough for downhill skiing, but it's certainly very good for backcountry skiing and cross country. Certainly we've got a very active mountain bike community in the area. So in terms of a destination resort, regional resort type of thing, it's perfect for the area. It's close to the big population center. We get the cruise ships coming in. Vancouver Island is tourism friendly. The official community plan for this is the Malahat within the Capital Regional District planning area. The OCP supports tourist development. It doesn't currently have the density of zoning that we would require for this, but given that the tourist development is anticipated and supported in the official community plan, then we would anticipate fairly minimal pushback in terms of getting a zoning for a resort type of a build out up there. Some of the numbers on the provincial site supporting the resorts, I've seen a $10 million investment. This is for Crown land applications, which we'd like to use the trails as they exist over the Crown lands, which surround this property right down into Souk Mountain Park and north, and basically all the way around is Crown land. So we would make a 10-year application for the use of those trails at least. And if we did a build out of 100 units up there in this market, that would be very easily make that $10 million investment should they want that. Now, from what I understand, they've actually required that $10 million for a purely Crown tenure where they're building something like an alpine ski resort. But so this is considerably different than that. It does not require that kind of infrastructure. And we're looking at a number of new technology developments in terms of small structures. One in particular has got our attention. It's being built in Vegas. It's called Boxable, Boxabl, and we'll put a video on the site showing that type of thing. But that would be something that we would be able to use. So that's the end of our video presentation, so we'll stop there.